Always be a learner. The samurai empty cup mindset. The master's tea room in the mountains of feudal Japan. There lived a renowned Zen master named Takeda. His reputation for wisdom stretched across provinces, drawing seekers from distant lands. Among those who made the arduous journey was Kenji, a proud samurai who had studied the blade for 20 years under various masters. Kenji arrived at Takeda's modest temple on a crisp autumn morning, his armor polished to perfection, his swords gleaming in the sunlight. He had won countless duels, commanded respect in his lord's court, and mastered 7 different sword techniques. Yet something gnawed at him, a hunger for the legendary insights that only Master Takeda could provide. Master Takeda, Kenji announced as he entered the tea room, I have traveled many days to learn from you. I have studied under Masters Yoshida Nakamura and the great Saito himself. I know the technique of the falling leaf, the striking serpent, and the mountain wind stance. I come seeking your wisdom to perfect my understanding. The old master sat quietly, his weathered face betraying no emotion. Without a word, he gestured for Kenji to sit. The samurai settled across from him, noting the simple clay cups and the iron kettle warming over glowing coals. Tea? Master Takeda offered. Yes, thank you, Kenji replied, slightly surprised by the mundane beginning to what he expected would be a profound teaching session. The overflowing cup. Master Takeda lifted the iron kettle and began pouring tea into Kenji's cup. The golden liquid rose steadily to the rim. Kenji watched, expecting the master to stop, but Takeda continued pouring. The tea reached the lip of the cup and began to spill over the sides, pooling on the wooden table, dripping onto the tatami mat below. Master, Kenji exclaimed, leaping back to avoid the spreading liquid. The cup is full. It overflows. Stop pouring. Takeda set down the kettle with deliberate care and looked directly into Kenji's eyes for the first time. Like this cup, the master said softly, you are full of your own knowledge, opinions, and accomplishments. How can I teach you anything when your cup is already overflowing? The word struck Kenji like a physical blow. In that instant he understood. All his expertise, all his credentials, all his victories, they had become a wall preventing new wisdom from entering. His cup was indeed full. But master, Kenji protested, his pride wounded yet his curiosity ignited. Are my 20 years of training meaningless? Should I forget everything I've learned? The wisdom of emptiness. Takeda smiled for the first time, a subtle expression that softened his ancient features. Tell me, Kenji-san, when a farmer plants rice in a field already choked with weeds, what happens to the new crop? It cannot grow properly, Kenji admitted. The weeds compete for nutrients and sunlight. And yet, Takeda continued, does the farmer burn his entire field to plant new rice? Does he destroy the good soil? The irrigation channels he has built? The wisdom of the land? Kenji shook his head slowly, beginning to grasp the subtlety of the teaching. The farmer removes the weeds but keeps the fertile soil. He empties the field of what prevents growth while preserving what enables it. Takeda paused to let this sink in. Your knowledge is like that field. The techniques you have mastered are valuable soil. But the pride in your mastery, the assumption that you already know, the unwillingness to see things freshly, these are the weeds. The master refilled both cups, this time stopping at the appropriate level. An empty cup does not mean an ignorant mind. It means a mind open to being filled. A mind that can receive. A beginner's mind. We call it in Zen Shoshin the 3-day silence. I understand, master, Kenji said eagerly. I will empty my cup. I am ready to learn from you now. Takeda laughed, a deep, genuine sound that filled the small tea room. Already your cup refills itself. You understand with your thinking mind, but not yet with your being. For 3 days, you will work in the temple gardens. You will pull weeds, carry water, and wash dishes. You will speak to no one. You will not practice your sword techniques. You will simply do these simple tasks with full attention. Kidi's face betrayed his confusion and disappointment. He had traveled so far for gardening lessons. Seeing this, Takeda added, a cup must be cleaned before it can hold pure water. These 3 days will clean your cup. The gardener's revelation. The first day was torture for Kenji. His mind raced constantly. As he pulled weeds, he thought about sword techniques. As he carried water, he replayed past victories. His hands worked, but his mind was elsewhere, in the past, in the future, anywhere but the present moment. His back ached from the unfamiliar labor. Blisters formed on his palms, unused to the hoe and bucket. The other temple attendants worked silently around him, their movements economical and peaceful. Their faces showed no signs of the internal struggle that raged within Kenji. The second day, exhaustion began to quiet his restless thoughts. As he knelt to pull a stubborn weed, he noticed the intricate structure of its roots, how they gripped the earth with remarkable strength. For a moment, he was simply present with the weed, the soil, the act of removal. Then his mind jumped back to analysis. This is like the mountain wind stance, he thought, and the moment was lost. But these moments of presence became more frequent. Carrying water, he felt the weight of the bucket, the strain in his shoulders, the coolness of the water splashing on his feet. Washing dishes, he experienced the smooth texture of the clay, the warmth of the water, the simple satisfaction of transforming something dirty into something clean. By the third day, something had shifted. Kenji found himself fully absorbed in each task. The weed was just a weed, not a metaphor for swordsmanship. The water was just water, not a lesson in philosophy. And in this simple presence, a profound peace descended upon him. That evening, as he washed the last dish, he noticed something remarkable. A young boy, perhaps 8 years old, was sweeping the temple courtyard. The child's technique was imperfect. He missed spots, swept the same area twice, and had to frequently adjust his grip on the broom. But his face showed complete concentration, total engagement with the task at hand. Kenji realized he was witnessing Shoshin beginner's mind in its purest form. The boy wasn't sweeping while thinking about other things. He wasn't comparing this sweeping session to yesterday's. He wasn't proud of his sweeping skills or ashamed of his mistakes. He was simply sweeping, fully and completely. The real lesson begins on the 4th day. Master Takeda summoned Kenji back to the tea room. The samurai entered with different energy than before, quieter, more receptive, less eager to display his knowledge. "Tell me what you learned in the garden," Takeda invited. Kenji paused, choosing his words carefully. "I learned that I am rarely present. My mind is always commenting, comparing, judging. Even when I am doing one thing, I am thinking about another. My cup is not just full, it is overflowing in all directions at once." Takeda nodded. "I learned that mastery of a simple task, pulling weeds, carrying water, requires the same quality of attention as mastery of the sword, perhaps more, because there is no glory in it, no audience, no victory to achieve, only the task itself." "Good," Takeda said. "Now you are ready to learn. Not because your cup is empty, but because you understand that it must remain empty, even as it is being filled. This is the paradox of the learner's mind, the sword of empty mind." Over the following weeks, Master Takeda instructed Kenji in techniques the samurai had never encountered. But more importantly, he taught him to approach each technique as if for the first time, regardless of how many similar techniques he had mastered before. "When I show you the crane's wing defense," Takeda explained, "you must not think, this is similar to the mountain wind stance I learned from Master Saito. The moment you make that comparison, you see the crane's wing through the lens of the mountain wind. You see what is similar and miss what is different. You see the past instead of the present." Kenji struggled with this. His educated mind wanted to categorize, to connect, to build frameworks of understanding. These mental habits had served him well in his studies. How could they now be obstacles? Takeda demonstrated by teaching Kenji a basic downward cut, one of the first techniques any sword student learns. "Show me your downward cut," he instructed. Kenji performed the technique flawlessly, or so he thought. 20 years of training flowed through his movement. "Now," Takeda said, "forget everything you know about the downward cut. Pretend you have never held a sword before. Show me again." This proved nearly impossible. How could Kenji unknow what he knew? His muscles had memorized the movement. His mind had categorized it, analyzed it, perfected it. "You see the problem?" Takeda observed. "Your 20 years have created grooves in your mind, like water wearing paths in stone. The water always flows in the same channels. To cut differently, you must fill in the old grooves and allow new ones to form." The duel that taught humility word of Kenji's training reached a wandering samurai named Ru, who came to the temple seeking to challenge Master Takeda. The master was old and declined the challenge, but Ru insisted. "Then let my student face you," Takeda offered. "If you defeat him, I will accept your challenge." Kenji stepped forward confidently. Despite his recent lessons in humility, the old pride flickered within him. He had trained under the legendary Takeda for 3 months now, combining this wisdom with his 20 years of experience. Surely this wandering samurai would be no match. The duel was brief and humiliating. Ju defeated Kenji within seconds, not through superior technique, but through unpredictability. Every defense Kenji raised was bypassed. Every attack he launched was countered. Ru fought with no discernible style, flowing like water. Adapting to each moment without pattern or predictability, bowing respectfully, Ru departed. His challenge satisfied, Kenji knelt in the courtyard, mortified. Takeda approached and sat beside him. "You see now?" the master asked gently. "I thought I understood," Kenji admitted, tears of frustration in his eyes. "But in the duel, all my old habits returned. I fought with the techniques I knew, following the patterns I had mastered. I could not empty my cup when it mattered most." "That is because you viewed the empty cup as a technique, something to master and then use. But it is not a technique. It is a way of being that must be renewed in each moment." Takeda explained further. "Ju has no style because he does not hold on to any style. Each moment, he responds freshly to what is. He has mastered the empty cup, not as a method but as a truth. His cup is always empty and always full, empty of preconception, full of presence." The practice of perpetual learning from that day forward, Kenji's training took a different direction. Each morning, before picking up his sword, he would sit in meditation, practicing the art of letting go. Not just letting go of thoughts, but letting go of his identity as a skilled swordsman, as a student of famous masters, as someone who knew anything at all. This practice extended beyond the sword. When eating, he would eat as if tasting food for the first time. When walking, he would notice the sensation of each step as a fresh experience. When speaking with others, he would listen without preparing his response. without filtering their words through his existing beliefs. It was exhausting at first. The mind wants to rest in what it knows, to rely on patterns and shortcuts, but gradually, Kenji discovered a vitality in this approach. Life became vivid again, the way it had been in childhood, before experience had dulled his senses with familiarity. One day, while practicing a sword form he had performed thousands of times, Kenji noticed something new, a subtle shift in weight distribution that improved his balance. This small adjustment, invisible to him for years, became apparent only when he approached the familiar form with fresh eyes. How many times have I missed such things, he wondered. By assuming I already knew, the student becomes the teacher. Years passed. Kenji's reputation grew, not for his victories in combat, but for his unusual teaching method. Students came expecting to learn techniques, but Kenji taught them first to garden, to sit in silence, to approach each moment with beginner's mind. One day, a young samurai arrived, full of pride in his accomplishments, eager to add Kenji's wisdom to his collection of knowledge. As they sat in the tea room, Kenji began to pour tea into the young man's cup. The tea rose to the rim, and Kenji continued pouring. "Master, the cup overflows," the student exclaimed. Kenji smiled, the same subtle smile Master Takada had shown him years ago. "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and knowledge. How can I teach you anything when your cup is already overflowing?" But this time, Kenji added something new to the teaching. "Come, let us empty your cup together, not once, but every day, in every moment. For the empty cup is not a destination, but a practice. It is not something you achieve and then possess. It is a way of walking through the world with curiosity instead of certainty, with questions instead of answers, with openness instead of conclusion." The continuous journey years later. Even as Kenji approached old age, he maintained his beginner's mind. When students assumed he had reached the peak of mastery, he would laugh. "I know less today than I knew yesterday," he would say, confusing them. "How can this be, master?" They would ask. "Yesterday, I thought I knew many things. Today, I have discovered how much I do not know. My cup has grown larger, capable of holding more, and therefore it feels emptier than before." This is the path of the lifelong learner. He taught that there were 3 stages of knowledge. First, you know nothing and recognize it, the empty cup of the beginner. Then, you learn much and think you know the full cup of the expert. You know much but recognize how much you do not know, the empty cup of the master. Most people, Kenji explained, move from stage 1 to stage 2 and stop there, satisfied with their full cup. But the true journey is to stage 3, where knowledge and emptiness coexist. You hold your expertise lightly, ready to release it when it no longer serves, ready to be surprised by what you thought you understood. The final teaching on his deathbed, Kenji's students gathered around him, seeking final words of wisdom. "Master," one student asked, "what is the most important thing you learned in your life?" Kenji was silent for a long moment. Then, he whispered that each moment was my first, that I never truly mastered anything, only discovered new depths to explore, that the cup I worked so hard to empty throughout my life was never really empty at all, nor should it have been. The goal was never emptiness, but capacity, the capacity to receive, to change, to be surprised, to grow. He paused, gathering strength. "Promise me this. Never stop being beginners. Never let your expertise close you to new understanding. Never let your achievements convince you that you have arrived. The empty cup is not an absence but a presence, the presence of possibility, of potential, of perpetual awakening." "But master," another student asked, "if we are always beginners, do we ever become masters?" Kenji smiled his last smile. "The master is the one who never stops being a beginner. The master is the one whose cup, no matter how much wisdom it holds, always has room for more. That is the paradox you must embrace." The legacy lives on after Kenji's death. His students continued his teaching, passing the empty cup philosophy through generations. The practice spread beyond swordsmanship to all arts, all disciplines, all aspects of life. Merchants learned to approach each customer with fresh curiosity, not with assumptions based on past transactions. Farmers learned to read each season as unique, not merely a repetition of previous years. Artists learned to pick up their brushes as if for the first time. Even after decades of practice, the empty cup became a symbol of the highest wisdom, knowing that you do not know, being willing to learn, remaining open to correction, treating each moment as an opportunity for discovery. And in temples across the land, masters still begin instruction by pouring tea until it overflows, reminding students of the lesson Kenji learned so many years ago. An overflowing cup cannot receive. A closed mind cannot grow. A person who thinks they know everything cannot learn anything. But an empty cup, carefully maintained through conscious practice, can receive infinite wisdom, one moment, one experience, one revelation at a time. Living the empty cup today. The wisdom of the empty cup extends far beyond feudal Japan. In our modern world where expertise is celebrated and certainty is valued, the practice of beginner's mind is more relevant than ever. We live in an age of information overload, where everyone has opinions and access to vast knowledge. Yet this abundance can become a prison if we mistake information for understanding. If we confuse credentials with wisdom, if we let our accumulated learning prevent us from seeing what is actually in front of us, the empty cup mindset asks us to question our assumptions regularly, curious even about subjects we know. Well, listen more than we speak, remain open to being wrong, approach familiar situations with fresh eyes, questions as much as answers. That expertise in one area doesn't mean expertise in all areas. Treat every person as a potential teacher. See learning as a lifelong journey, not a destination. This doesn't mean abandoning expertise or pretending we know nothing. Like Kenji learned, it means holding our knowledge lightly, wearing our expertise with humility, and remaining always open to growth. The samurai who first sat before Master Takeda with his overflowing cup learned that true mastery is not about how much you know, but about how willing you are to learn. This lesson, passed down through centuries, remains as vital now as it was then. Your cup is before you. The question is, will you let it overflow with what you already know, or will you maintain the emptiness that allows for continuous filling? The choice, as always, is yours. In the tradition of the masters, may your cup be forever empty. May your mind be forever open. May your learning be forever new.